So yeah, good evening or good afternoon. So thank you for having me at this auditorium again for showing you some sort of like how to better protect your organization with foundational security controls. So my name is Augenstein. I'm senior sales engineer with Tripwire, and I will show you during the short presentation here how you can protect or better protect your organization with those controls. So let's just start with a little short story. So once upon a time, there were two organizations. Let's call them Organization A and Organization B. Those organizations were mainly the same. So working in the public sector and at the receiving end of cyber threats, externally as well as internally. Both companies have to adhere different compliance standards, and they also try to get the environment as secure as possible so that they get no leakage and all the things in the environment. But at the end, this is so something where the similarity ends. So they're at the same stage. They try to achieve all the same stuff. And at one day, there was a security breach and a serious security breach from an insider threat. So at Organization A, everybody now runs around the building and looks for the reason why there was a breach, who did the breach, where were the open ports, and all the things that may occur, and on all the leakages that they have. So, and what they do right now, they try to see that they can close all the gaps and close all the ports and whatever made it happen for this insider threat. In parallel, there also need to be PCI or to need some kind of compliance like PCI, because they're also in the credit card industry, and they also try to get their security still working. But this is because they have nothing special in place. They are just running around like crazy. Organizational B is totally relaxed. So they have the same step, but they have everything in place to see why the breach occurs or why the threat occurs. They are always compliant. They have no worries around compliance drift. And when a critical business IT function failed, it was simpler for them to understand why it had failed and also bring that service back up. So how is this possible that organization B is so vastly different to organization A? What have they done differently? The answer is actually quite simple. It's foundational controls. So what are foundational controls? Well, foundational controls are or should be the basis of all IT security postures. They are what the rest of IT security strategy should be built on. The controls were devised by SANS Institute a couple of years ago. I think it was 2008, and was then transferred to the CIS in 2015. So, and it was called the Critical Security Control Top 20. And those were developed by industry security expert. They represent and reference starting point for any organization, regardless of size and type. Data suggests also, so there was a, let's call it some kind of calculation. I don't know the right English word, but there was some kind of calculation that if you implement the first 5 CS controls, you can reduce the risk of the cyber attack by around 85%, just if you implement five of those rules, the first 5 of those rules. By implementing all 20 controls, the risk reduction becomes roughly 94%. So this shows that implementing a strong foundation and especially when you go with the first 5 controls, this will reduce the most risk and give you a stable and effective platform to build on. So if these fundamental controls are so basic, why haven't all organizations implemented them? Good question. So maybe there was not enough money. Maybe they start with tools that fix problems firsthand, like maybe antivirus or good firewalls or whatever. And they do some stuff in a let's call it in a timely manner because they were breached or hacked or whatever, and need to fix those holes first and try to lock down the system. So they have no time or no project to bring in those foundational controls. So Tripwire, so as you saw about the foundational controls, is now why should be needed for focus on establishing a solid foundation for your security program. So vendors like Tripwire are able to provide this proven solution for the security control that are essential to any good security program. So let's have a look on the fundamental foundation controls in a bit more detail. So essential for those controls are 4 main areas that should be addressed. So there is first of all, it's discovery, secure configuration, vulnerability assessment, and log management. So let's have a little deeper look into discovery. When we look at the environments that customers are facing right now, there's still let's call it an immense growth of endpoints. So and especially those are endpoints you never know about. Starting with the endpoints that you have in control because you set them up by yourself. They will be implemented by your IT teams, and they are also in your records. That's all fine because you know of them. But there's also IT devices and devices that come into your network, by your own employees. Just a buzzword is bring your own devices. So that makes it, or servers that will be fired up, virtual servers as an example, that will be fired up for just short projects and then will be shut down again. All those things makes it pretty difficult and difficult to manage all those devices, to see all those devices, and even to secure those devices, because it makes it pretty, it's easy to manage and secure the devices that you know, but it makes it impossible to manage and secure the devices that you don't know, because they are not, so you don't see them in your network, in your network to go ahead with them. The second thing is secure configuration. The vast majority of devices are insecure by default. So if you set up a new server, you don't have any patches on it. You first have to patch your stuff. You don't have your, maybe you don't have your special configuration implemented on those things. And even if you go to end user devices, you can't rely on end user to reconfigure their devices. Secure configurations can help you harden devices using secure settings and baselining systems to identify a known good state. So since security configurations are known, we can also use them to detect changes and understand why a change is good or bad. Knowing if a change is good or bad helps distinguish between business as usual and a security breach. It's hard to make those distinctions when we don't have details of the change. So what exactly, so details are like what exactly changed and who changed it, and when did it change. So those are things where you can see if this is yeah, a change that was maybe authorized by the IT department or authorized by whoever, and makes it a non-breach or a non-secure change in the system. And when a bad change occurs, how do you know how to get it back to the desired state? So this is not something like, not only something like a security thing, it's also a thing for system management. Like somebody changes a rule in the firewall, and after that nothing works anymore for whatever reason, and the person is on holiday, on vacation, or maybe got sick or has an accident or something like that. Now your IT colleagues go through the whole company and check every firewall for every rule, where was it changed and why was it changed. If you have a system that can track and monitor all those changes, you can have a single point where you can look for changes and see what change was implemented, who did the implementation and what was changed, and then you can revert the change directly or instant or in a very short of time. So what makes the search even the finding of the change much faster, and also the reverting time to bring up the system up and running again also shorter. And so the shorter the time is to bring back the system into the original state, because this was a secure state, and the hardened time makes the time when an attacker can take advantage also, or shortens the time also for the attacker to take advantage to get into your system and maybe breach your system. And next up will be vulnerability assessment. How is so? You need to know how your systems are vulnerability. So vulnerabilities are a fact of life. So unpatched devices and software are an open door for attackers. I think we all know this. There are a lot of patches implemented because of vulnerabilities of the operating system as well as in applications. For many organizations, there are too many vulnerabilities and not enough people to fix them all. If you can't patch everything, so it's important to fix the biggest risk first. So it's, yeah, most of the companies have limited personnel to fix things and to maintain things. So it's very important that you mitigate which which risk is the highest, or which vulnerability has the highest risk for your system. So in this and for the reason, or for such a reason, you have to decide which server needs to be patched, or needs to be not only patched, but maybe just needs some configuration changes to make him more secure. So just as an example, if you have two servers with the same, let's call it attack vectors, and the first one is in front of or sitting in a DMZ, and the other one is sitting under your table with no access or with limited access, the risk for the one in the DMZ is much higher than the one under your desk. So you will first change the one on the system, on the DMZ. Otherwise, if they have the same errors and one is for credit card information and the other one holds no data, you will change, you will patch or change the server with the credit card information first. And for this, you just need to go with you have to check all your devices in the network for all those vulnerabilities, and then need to decide, and this also can be done with the software if possible, to decide which device you should or which vulnerability you should remove first from your systems. And last but not least, there's log management. Log management is, or logging is important for detection and investigation of incidents. it's a non-discussionable thing, because if you want to see what happens on your system, you need some information, and all those informations typically are provided by logs. But logs often get turned off, deleted, or manipulated. So it's important to make sure that log is turned on and stays on. Otherwise, you lose information, and with lost information, you can't prove anything, or you can't find anything, or it makes it even more difficult to get all the information to prove anything. The disadvantage of logging is that you may create a lot of information. So there will be also some information that you're not interested in. So it's also pretty important to see that you get some kind of correlation. So that only very important or that only important information that are important for doing investigation in your network, because there was breach or some theft of data or something like that. That this will be correlated and aggregated, and so that events per second will go down. And even if you want to forward this information into a SIEM tool, if you go and correlate them and aggregate them before, the amount of data that goes to the SIEM tool will be reduced. And with this, it makes it easier, and sometimes, depending on the SIEM tool, also cheaper to get all the data and work over all the data. In summary, the key of dealing risk is always the foundational things or the foundational controls. Regardless of scale, know what's on your network, understand how it's vulnerable, keep it patched, keep it securely configured, and monitor it for suspicious activity. Quite simply, when you do the easy things well, the hard things will become easier. Yeah, so lay the foundation. This is the same thing like building a house. If you have a good foundation or a good basement, it's easier to build up the house on top of it. And the house on top of it will be more stable if the foundation is solid. So in closing, if any of the information I've just shared with you is something that you would like to look into a bit further, or if you have any other questions that require a bit more of an in-depth answer, please feel free to reach out to me or my colleague, Mrs. Balziger, on the Tripwire booth here. And we are happy to tell you more about our product portfolio and how our Tripwire can help you to lay the good foundation to your system and to your organization to secure your system in a better way. So thank you for your attention, and enjoy the show.
Thank you, Frank. Dear colleagues, maybe you have questions? No more questions. Thank you, Frank. Thank you for your time, for your presentation and speech.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.